Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. I am Nor-alia and the topic that I will going to discuss for today is about the revised Bloom's taxonomy with two dimension of cognitive domain by Krathwohl 2002. So before we discuss the two dimensions of cognitive domain, of course let's have a recap about the main revised Bloom's taxonomy means. So the revised Bloom's taxonomy by Anderson and Krathwohl in 2002, it is a newer version of a learning framework created by Benjamin Bloom in the 1950s. So Anderson and Krathwohl updated Bloom's model to fit better with how we teach and understand learning today. So we have the two dimensions of the cognitive domain, which is the knowledge dimension and cognitive dimensions. So the first one, the knowledge dimension, this dimension is based on the noun and provides the basis for the type of knowledge to be learned. So one of the best example of the knowledge dimension is by identifying and listing the different parts of a plant, the roots, stem, leaves, and flowers as part of the biology lesson. So, and the sample, the student are required to demonstrate factual knowledge by recognizing and listing the specific components of a plant. So, this sample focuses on the basic recall of information about the plant anatomy and emphasizing the knowledge dimensions of Bloom's taxonomy. So the second one is the cognitive dimensions. This dimension is based on the verb and forms the basis for the cognitive process to be used in acquiring knowledge. So in cognitive dimensions, for instance, by comparing and contrasting the characteristic of two historical figures. So example, the historical figures and characteristic of Abraham Lincoln and Mahatma Gandhi to analyze their impact on society. So in the sample, it involves the higher order thinking skills such as the analysis and evaluations. So by comparing and contrasting the attributes of historical figures, of course, the students are prompted to delve deeper into understanding the significance of their actions and influence on society. So, this sample emphasizes the cognitive process dimensions of Bloom's taxonomy and encouraging the critical thinking and analysis. So, let's proceed to knowledge dimension. Of course, we have the factual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, and procedural knowledge, and the number 4 is wrong, and the number 4 actually is the metacognitive knowledge. So let's discuss those mentioned. So factual knowledge, it is about remembering basic facts. For example, by recalling the capital of France is Paris. So, and that sample refers to the basic recall of the informations. For instance, knowing that the capital of France is Paris and requires factual knowledge. So that is an example of the factual knowledge. So the second one is the conceptual knowledge. Conceptual knowledge is refers to understanding bigger ideas and connections. Example, explaining how photosynthesis works in plants. So in this sample, understanding how photosynthesis works in plants involves the grasping the broader concept and principle behind this biological process. So that is an example of conceptual knowledge, which is the understanding bigger ideas and connections. So the number 3 is the procedural knowledge. So when you say procedural knowledge naman, it refers to knowing how to do things. Example, demonstrating how to solve a math problem using the long divisions. So in that sample, demonstrating how to solve a math problem using long divisions showcases procedural knowledge, which is about knowing how to perform specific tasks or procedures. And the last one is the metacognitive knowledge. So metacognitive knowledge refers to being aware of your own thinking process. Example, reflecting on your learning process and adjusting your study habits accordingly. So reflecting on your learning process and adjusting study habits falls under metacognitive knowledge, which involves awareness and control of one's learning strategies. So that is metacognitive knowledge, which is being aware of your own thinking process. So let's move to the cognitive dimensions. So of course we have remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and the creating. So remembering, when it's remembering, it is about recalling informations. Recalling informations, for instance, by recalling the dates of important historical events. So, recalling the dates of important historical events involves the cognitive process, of course, the remembering specific details or information. So, that is remembering. The second one is the understanding. Understanding, it is about grasping the meaning of what you learn. For instance, explaining the main idea of a story in your own words. So, by explaining the main idea of a story in your own words demonstrates the cognitive process of understanding, where you interpret and comprehend the content of the story. So, that is an understanding. So, of course, we have applying. Applying is that using what you know in new situations. For instance, using formula to calculate the area of a triangle. So by using a formula to calculate the area of a triangle requires the applying knowledge and a new context or situation. So of course, using a formula to calculate, you used the applying knowledge. So that is an example of applying and the meaning of applying. And of course, we have the analyzing. Analyzing, it is refers to breaking down information to see how it fits together. So, for example, breaking down a complex issue into its key components. So, by breaking down a complex issue into its key components involves the cognitive process of analyzing, where you dissect information to understand its structure. So, that is an example of analyzing by breaking down a complex issue. And we have evaluating. When you say evaluating, it refers to making judgment based on standard. So, for example, by assessing the strength and weakness of a scientific theory. So, by assessing the strength and weakness of a scientific theory showcases the cognitive process of evaluating, where you judge the value and credibility of information. So, that is an evaluating. And the last one is the creating. When you say creating, it coming up with the new ideas or solutions. Example, designing a new invention to solve a common problem. So by designing a new invention to solve a common problem represent the highest cognitive process of creating, where you generate the new ideas or solutions based on existing knowledge. So that is creating. So let's move to the revised taxonomy provides a framework that helps educators in the following ways. So first, it provides educators with a common set of terms and levels about learning outcomes that help in planning across subject, matter, and grade levels. So this means that the revised taxonomy offers teachers a shared vocabulary and understanding of learning objectives, which assist them in creating cohesive lesson plans that are applicable across different subject and grade levels. So, for instance, the teacher can use the taxonomy to create lesson plans to teaching addition to first graders and multiplication to fifth graders using a consistent set of learning objectives. The second one is it helps in the drafting of learning standards across levels. So the number 2 indicates that the taxonomy aids in the developments of educational benchmarks and expectations that are consistent and applicable across various education levels, ensuring a coherent and progressive learning experience for students. So, for example, the educator can use the taxonomy to develop basic reading standards for kindergarten students and advanced writing standard for high school students and ensuring a progress learning trajectory. So that is the help which is meant to say it is helpful for the educators. So the third one is it serves as a guide in evaluating the school's curriculum objectives, activities, and assessments. So, meaning to say, this implies that the taxonomy acts as a tool for assessing and aligning the school's educational goals, teaching methods, and evaluation practices, ensuring that they are in line with the desired learning outcomes. So, for example, the principal can use the taxonomy to assess if classroom activities in science align with the school's curriculum objectives and if assessments measure students' understanding effectively. The last one is it guides the teacher in formulating learning outcomes that tap higher order thinking skills. So, meaning to say, this suggests that the taxonomy assists the teachers in creating educational objectives that target advanced cognitive skills such as the critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity, fostering a deeper level of understanding and applications among students. For instance, the teachers design a project where students analyze a story characters and motivations and encouraging them to think critically and creatively about the text. So that's all my part and thank you for watching.